This is Rodney McGee.
And I am Alfie Williams.
And you're listening to Rodney and Alfie Talk Metal. All right, so welcome to another episode of Rodney and Alfie Talk Metal, and we have something fairly timely here, and if you're not talking about it, you're going to be talking about it, or somebody near you's talking about it, or you wish people would stop talking about it. And that is the Pantera tour, kind of.
Yes. So
apparently the big news this week is that there has been a Pantera tour announced. How do you say? It seems that an agreement was reached, and Zakk Wylde will be stepping in for Dimebag Darrell, and Charlie Benante of Anthrax will be stepping in for Vinnie Paul. A big part of this seems to be less about them actually doing this, because you've had a history of shows like Dime Bash and things like that, which both of these guys have participated in. But the fact that they're billing it as Pantera. Which I did find a little bit interesting. But before I get to some of my points and some of the stuff I've seen in news and things, what's your initial take on this one, Alfie?
I'm kind of surprised. I really, if you twisted my arm and said, "What do you think?" Gut reaction. I'm into it. I'm for it, and I'm quite surprised with myself, because usually when I hear about reunion tours or these kind of things, I'm very cynical. Usually not for them, not very supportive, and cynical. But in this case, I dig it, and I would like to see that. I don't know why. I don't know if there's some bias there towards me speaking to Rex Brown, in an interview and that kind of thing. There may be a bias towards that, but even that aside, I like Pantera, and I want to see Pantera, even if it is two of the members. I still want to see it. It's not something I've experienced before. So generally, I am supportive of it rather than my usual cynical ways. What do you feel?
I'm I can see points on either side, but I guess the reasons why I have a bit of a about them calling it a Pantera tour and nothing else, which I have my own suspicions about, is the fact that usually when you see something like this, it means that a new version of the band has happened. So
not always, though, really.
No, but I mean, usually it's not a one-off of, we're going to do, it's this band's tour. And then it usually means, well, we've put together a new band. And this is going to be an ongoing thing. Or there's going to be a new album to support it, or something like that. Like it's a continuation of the band. The other part of it being that, on the other side of it, it's kind of like, it doesn't really define what the tour is. It's like, okay, are you touring almost in a tribute band style thing where you're going to come out and do a Pantera show? Or is this more something where, you kind of come out and it's, hey, let's remember.
Yeah.
Type of thing, which I think are two very different things. And I'll talk, I got a little bit more info about it and have some of my other points, but I think those are the two kind of things that I think should have been clarified before an announcement or during an announcement, and why I do feel it, that some of the people going, what the hell, have a little bit of a point. It's like Pantera isn't restarting.
No.
So is this really a Pantera tour under that kind of thought process?
I know where you're coming from. I can see where you're coming from, and I understand. At the same time, I'm not trying to categorize it as such. This kind of goes into our conversation from last week, where Megadeth is Dave Mustaine, and we know what to expect. But this, I'm not too sure, in the sense of, maybe if I can extrapolate on your point, how many band members do we need to make it a Pantera show? Can we still call it a Pantera show with just two guys out of four? and that kind of thing. And I'm also feeling like Rex and Phil have been doing Down. Could they not tour Down again and just do Pantera songs in between? Do they need to be Pantera? I don't know. There's so many different layers to this. So I'll go with whatever's on the top of your mind, and we'll go from there if you like.
Yeah, well, it's like I said, it's a lot that, but usually, like I said, when you hear an announcement of like, oh, there's going to be a Pantera tour, well, it's like, okay, then this is Pantera now. Pantera is now Zakk Wylde and Charlie Benanti and Phil Anselmo, and but it's not.
No.
It's so there. I think they did a misstep by leaving such ambiguity. And I think honestly, I've seen a lot of comments for, and I've seen a lot of comments against. Where I wound up coming down on it, at least for myself, is I have a third kind of route that I think is,
as you do.
Yeah, I always seem to have the curveball. But it's like if the two remaining members of the band are good with it, and apparently the estates, both Abbott estates, have endorsed it. Kind of like, okay, if the people that were their family, their business partners, their wives, this type of thing, all say yes to this, I think you're kind of the odd man out, or the, it's not really up to you type of thing to put it in. It's like fans going, no, this is a travesty. It's like, no, I'm going to go ahead and say the dude's wife has first shot on, blasphemy or not. So as far as authority goes, the band members plus the extended and the owners of the estate, what are you going to do at that point? If it's a direction you don't like, that's fine. But saying that it's not the right thing, it's like, well, only the artists and the people who represent the artist can decide if it's a right thing or not. And they've decided.
Yeah.
So suck it. It's kind of, that's what you get. My other kind of thought on this is, again, coming from a marketing background and stuff, this feels utterly engineered to me.
In what sense? Like monetary or?
No, with anything, regardless of the reasons why you're doing it, the people in promotion's job is to hype it and get people out to it. And the way you hype things, you should get people to talk about it. And I think making this a controversial topic by specifically not addressing certain topics has exploded this. I mean, the announcement came out and it's been huge and everybody's been talking about it for days. Every YouTube channel, even vaguely about metal, is talking about this. And so I think instead of saying something like, in remembrance of, or a celebration of Pantera or something like that, leaving it off and making it ambiguous, it stirs the pot. And that's a great, pissing people off is always a good marketing tool. Get people upset, get people angry, and then over the months, because this isn't happening until into next year. So then they've got all that time to now follow up with interviews like the one I've already seen, and I'll reference in a minute, where the band members explain and all the butthurt gets soothed over and gradually the controversy goes away and it becomes a rallying cry behind it.
Yep.
Yet as far as promotions, I think that's where this really lies. Not so much in the artists or their families or anything, but a very predictable marketing push was made and said, let's call this Pantera and, get the brawl started, because people, let's face it, people go on social media 90% to fight.
Yeah.
It's like, throw the red meat out there. And, they're on the cover of everything right now. Top news, Brave Words, Metal Injection, it's all of it. They are commanding the news cycle about metal right now. And they're going to for a while. I mean, within minutes of this coming out, people I know were posting their opinion and their stuff. Everybody had to weigh in. Everybody had to talk their shit. And I was just like, one, nobody cares.
Mm.
You know, I'm not going to go to this travesty. Well, no one will miss you. You don't count. No, like this Facebook post, like Phil was sitting there going, I don't know, man, if we want to do this, fucking homie on Facebook might not show up. Nobody cares. Save your sanctimony. These are the same people who post about their politics and stuff. No one cares. In the grand scheme of it, you don't count. Shut up. Go back to pictures of your food and your cat and your busted looking girlfriend. Just whatever. So, you know, to me, it seems kind of brilliant. It really is, because I think that in living in the butthurt society anymore, people have forgotten that so much of marketing really comes around to being kind of like pro wrestling.
Yeah.
You know, you invent a fake fight. And like I said, they've got into 2023 to now basically repair all this, get everybody on board. And that also means up until this starts, how many interviews? We need clarification from the Abbott family. We want to hear directly from Zakk Wylde. Is Charlie Benanti feeling like he's blaspheming his former friend? And, you know, it's going to be endless, and it's all free press coverage. All free. You know, they're going to be banging down your door, and the biggest avenues of advertising are all going to come to you, and you're not going to pay a cent. I think it's utterly marketing that it was left that vague, and I think it was smart.
Yeah, no, I agree. I understand your point, and I'm inclined to agree, but I also think calling it Pantera is shorthand. You can't call it Film Rex, or you can't call it Down Pantera Tribute. It has to be Pantera. There's no functional way to call it anything else, so it's shorthand. It has to be that.
Yeah, I mean, that's one way, but you could add to the Pantera thing. You know, like I said,
tribute,
the celebrating Pantera tour.
Mm-hmm.
You know, anything like that. Then, you know, this also comes down to, and I've noticed this, and this is interesting, which tells me that they were on the right track with it. I hear people arguing about the Pantera thing. I hear nobody arguing about the personnel choices. No, I have seen no one going, Zakk Wylde is totally wrong for this. He should have been in there. Charlie Benanti, blah, blah, blah. No, I've seen nobody yelling about that they were, you know, what the hell would you pick this for? This is stupid. So, you know, even the detractors don't have a problem with the people picked. You know, for people who might not be familiar, Zakk was apparently one of Darrell's closest friends. They were, you know, for years, just brothers in arms. And a lot of people don't realize as well that Darrell did a number of solos on Anthrax records.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, 5, if I'm not mistaken. He used to come in and guest spot all the time, and him and Scott Ian were close as well. So it really is you know, the family member and people who've actually performed with him and been around him. So I feel like those are pretty hard choices to throw stones at. So nobody's really been able to do it. You know, I don't hear another guitar player being proposed that would have been like, this one would have been, you know, the obvious choice. Why Zakk Wylde? So I think they knew they had the right package together, that these were the right people, and they can do it for the right reasons. They genuinely were friends and loved ones, and the family approves and everything. So that part's already untouchable. So where can you cause the controversy? You just do it by not saying things instead of saying things.
It is weird to have this release date so early. I mean, we're talking about 12 months. So that is peculiar. I wonder what the end goal is. I mean, you touched on them making new music. what are they trying to sell? Will it be new music, or is it just the performances? You can only make so much money out of touring. It's a very limited, there's a cap on how much you can tour. But if you release music, it's exponential. You can do whatever you want with it. It's part of the back catalog. So maybe you're right. Maybe there is music in the work.
That, to be honest, I kind of doubt. I don't think that would go down with anybody. That having somebody write, and then this is going to get into our next topic about, bands and replacing members. But I don't think that. See, I think it's totally because of that, because it is so hard to make money off touring and things, this massive promotional push to get this out. And, to a big degree too, it's like this, they're also not talking about a future. So it's like, this may be a once in a lifetime thing. So you play bigger places, you get more people in the door, you do limited edition merch. I was at the, the seminal Pantera celebration tour, blah, blah, blah. Exclusiveness is going to come into the marketing, and I think in a big way. And last night I actually watched, which of course you knew was coming, an interview with Zakk Wylde from Jose Mangan and Matt Pinfield. And they were talking about it. And I noticed very clearly his message was what every one of the detractors wanted to hear. And it, like when they were saying the Pantera tour, the guys were like, what is this exactly? And what are you doing? And and the first words out of his mouth, he said, this is a celebration of the music that these guys created together. And they're not around to do it. So we want to, bring it to fans who maybe never got to see Pantera and offer them something to the best ability we have of it being somewhat close and celebrate their life and what they left for us and everything. It's like, and that's what people want to hear.
Yes.
That's the right rationale. And that is 100% what Zakk's addressing it as. And I'm like, so he sees it this way. He used the word celebration like 20 times in that interview. And I'm going, everybody knows that's what it is. The band knows it. The family knows it. The marketers know it. All you got to do is leave that part out. Tribute to, celebration of, and you get all the dogs start barking through the fence. So as these interviews come out, and people start, it's okay, doggy. It's okay. And they slow down the bark. You got their attention now.
Yeah.
And now they can say, well, now it's okay for me to go because, they're doing it for the right reason, even though it was bad to call it this or that or blah, blah, blah. And so you get the detractors on board. You get the people who were supportive anyway on board. And then you get a massive free promotional push that goes on for 7 months. So, yeah, sharp move. And like I said, who's been talking to Zakk Wylde outside of the couple of solos he did on the new Ozzy record? Now, all of a sudden, he's, getting interviews. He's on, XM radio. He's on everybody wants to know. Tell us, what are we getting from this, Zakk? The celebration. That's what everybody wants to hear. It's almost like that Simpsons moment of, I posted a different meme of it recently, but the thing of when he has he gets his own show and he has the tagline like, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
And the kids in the class are like, say the thing. And he's like, it's a celebration of Pantera. Yay! So, yeah, I totally see that happening. And, because the smart move is it makes every member of the band now a public relations member.
Yes.
Instead of press releases, blah, blah, blah. Now you are interviewing every member of that band. Their faces are out there. Their voices are out there. The attention is on them. And they're giving you the explanation. And it's personal and all that.
Oh, this kind of raises a cynical point for me. Do you feel like this Pantera tribute, for lack of a better term, is more of a vehicle for everybody else a rising tide raises all boats. You know, Phil gets some spotlight, Zach gets some spotlight, Rex gets some spotlight. Everyone's solo projects comes up with the Pantera thing. Do you think that's part of it?
I don't necessarily think that's a motivation, but I can see it as, you know, a happy side benefit, you know.
There doesn't seem to be any losers in this situation. It just seems like well, I think Pantera have done them. I say Pantera in a very, again, a very general term. They've never done a reunion tour, even when they broke up.
Mm-hmm.
Even when the other two guys were alive, they never done a reunion. So to do it now, the first time ever, that holds so much weight for the Pantera name that they've not been cashing in the checks every 5 years. Oh, we're going to get back together again. This is, like you said, a once in a lifetime event. This is Pantera in its most modern form, like be there or miss out. And I think that, again, gives it value. Where someone like Ozzy, I'm retiring next year. So what? But Pantera, like me, I got into Pantera late. I want to see them. And I know we can talk about how much is it Pantera if it's just Rex and Phil, but I still want to see that in some capacity.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's the perfect segue into the second part of this that I think goes on to a larger issue. And I find really interesting is that this doesn't happen all the time. It seems like there's a clear division of some bands when they lose members are allowed by the fans to carry on with no issue. And there are some bands that get this treatment. And I'm really fascinated about the difference of it. Because,
absolutely.
Like you brought up earlier, Dave Mustaine is the only original member of Megadeth. I mean, the only times there is anything else going on, it's when Ellefson has been brought back into the band. But, on this tour, you don't hear anybody going, no Samuelson, no Poland, no Megadeth. No Friedman, no Megadeth. It's not happening. Why doesn't it? How many decades has Kiss been touring and we wish they wouldn't? And, at the beginning of that band, everyone in it was recognizable and a rock star. It's like Ace Frehley and Peter Criss ousted about basically the same time. How is it like Kiss can't continue? You just can't slap makeup on someone else and all of a sudden it's okay. But they've been accepted as Kiss with no tapping of the brakes whatsoever. You see this all the time. I mean, Christ, even sometimes you get people who are just sound-alike performers, and this steps outside of metal. Look at like Journey. Got a guy who, was hired just because he sounds just like Steve Perry. Ripper Owens and Judas Priest. Nobody stopped and said, no, they were unhappy about it, but nobody said that the band didn't have the right to tour as Judas Priest. They just said they might not like it as much with Ripper Owens. In Excess, the only recognizable member of that band, Hutchins, replaced by someone and they toured again. All these other bands are allowed to continue without people confronting them on this. And there's tons of bands that, are so loosely tied to the beginnings of their history. How many versions of Rat are there? I think there's like 15 different, like every member of the band gets to call themselves Rat when they tour with like 4 other guys or something. Even just recently, Tommy Lee on the Crew reunion with Def Leppard, something like broke 4 of his ribs or some crazy shit like that. He had to step out and another drummer steps in for him. Where's the outcry of, no Tommy Lee, no Crew tour. This is a travesty. They should drop off. Not happening. I think the days of crying about Paul Di'Anno are pretty much over. It's like, it's really interesting to me that some people are considered irreplaceable and some people aren't. And to extend a little bit, I'm going to make an argument and then I'm going to destroy that argument too, because it shows why it's pretty capricious how people do this. My initial thought on it was that whoever is seen as the seminal members of the band are the non-replaceable ones. You know, like it's always been known from the beginning, Gene and Paul were kind of the chairman of the board.
Yeah.
Type of thing. That's why you can have, you know, in the Rolling Stones, you know, their bass player goes and they just hire another guy and nobody really knows his name or anything. But Mick and Keith said, let's keep going. So the band keeps going. Does anybody give a shit when Nine Inch Nails gets a new member? If Trent Reznor's there, yep, good. Again, Dave Mustaine with Megadeth. It could very easily just be called the Mustaine Project at this point.
Yep.
But he's allowed to keep on with Megadeth. Now, you could say that with Pantera, because the iconic member of it being Darrell, you know, a guitar player that many say revolutionized metal, that kind of thing. But then you also have the, you know, Vinnie Paul. I'm not slandering Vinnie Paul by any stretch, but he wasn't the seminal figure that Dimebag is.
No, they weren't the same. No,
he was a good drummer, you know, but you know, there's no one going like, oh my God, drums lost an innovator when it came to Vinnie Paul or something. So that to me initially, you know, says something, but then, and well, another quick example, one that, you know, kind of really struck me too, is The Who were touring. It's like, you don't have John Entwistle.
No.
Like, I mean, John Entwistle. I mean, now we're talking getting into seminal figures. It's like John Entwistle and Keith Moon are both gone. Two of the most influential rock rhythm section members of all time.
Yeah.
And they just kept going, and nobody said, you know, no, if the ox ain't there, it ain't the Who. You know, they just had people stand in. You know, it's kind of hard to fight having Pino Palladino in on it. But, you know, why didn't they get trashed for being called the Who? Is it that Daltrey and Townsend are seen as superior influence member? I don't know. But that one seems like a pretty stiff one. It's like, if you can tour and not have Keith Moon or John Entwistle, that to me goes, there's a little hypocrisy going on with the Pantera camp thing. But then even getting on to that piece, and because you interviewed him, I'm sure you're aware of the fact too. I think people also, they get it in their head that if they admire or someone's an innovator on something, that they must be responsible for everything. It's like, I remember coming up in bands and people always thinking the singer wrote the songs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, do you not realize it's usually the dumbest son of a bitch in the band? They're up front because we don't want them in the back. Of course, I know. I'm going to send over the butt wipes for you guys. Calm down. But, you know, and of course he did, you know, Darrell wrote, you know, the overwhelming piece of the catalog. And so that's where I can see a little bit of the, you know, this was the originator. But then I think that under credits, because maybe I'm sure people don't even realize Rex wrote a lot of riffs too. Not only just wrote them, but actually played the track in the studio. It was usually whoever came up with the riff played it. And they're like, you don't realize, like parts of Cowboys from Hell and stuff, you're not hearing Darrell playing.
No, it's Rex.
Yeah. So it's like, doesn't that give him even more right? It's like, look, bitches, just because you don't connect me with this doesn't mean I'm not the guy who wrote some of your favorite riffs. So I feel like that kind of gives him even a bit more, you know, of the claim. But At the same time, if the audience doesn't recognize it from that angle, like I said, I'm trying to get down into that thing and go, what is that thing that lets some bands skate and they can just keep rolling with completely different members, and sometimes like one original member, you know, and not even like an important one. It's like the sax player from, you know, some crap like that. And they'll just keep going. But then you've got a 4-piece band where 50% of them are still there, and they're getting all kinds of shit for doing a tour with 2 non-original members. So I'm real curious about what type of pieces go there. And a final note I'll throw in, again, outside of rock, but it kind of strikes me, is, see, I said I would make an argument and then break it. Fleetwood Mac, if you're at all familiar with him, Lindsey Buckingham. He was a huge amount of their songwriting. He was one of their main singing voices. He sang a lot of their biggest hits. An extraordinary talent. I mean, the guy is unbelievable, and he has a style of playing that just can't be mimicked. They toured without him.
I remember.
Yeah, and it was like, how, even I was like, how the hell are you going to have Fleetwood Mac without Lindsey Buckingham? This is like pizza with no sauce. Like, what? You can't call this. Yeah, like, who's doing these songs? And that one struck me. So it's like, you know, people still went to see, you know, still went to check their shows out. And I don't remember the massive social media outcry of Fleetwood Mac touring with no Lindsey Buckingham.
It feels like a bit of a popularity contest, really. It's sort of who has, I'm trying to think of the right word, for lack of a better word, coolness. Darrell is cool. He's got this thing going on. He's just this really cool guitarist that you want to be like. And maybe to a lesser extent, the rest of the band didn't have that appeal. Darrell had that main appeal. Just thinking off the top of my head that most people probably wanted to be like Darrell rather than Phil or Vinnie or Rex. I don't know. It's just the coolness.
I don't know. I think for the other guys, I could see it, but Phil Anselmo, I mean, he's one of the most influential metal singers of all time.
Well, that's what I mean. Like in a very particular mindset, maybe like young guitarists who idolize Dime, they see that and they're just very protective of it because, as you just said, I even see Phil as, you know, he is a certain performer in metal that has not been matched in his pedigree. I don't know. It just feels like that. I wanted to throw in a bit of a curveball. Sepultura has had many lineup changes that none of the original members are in a band anymore. Yeah. So are they still Sepultura? How can they still be called Sepultura?
Exactly.
There just seems to be no rules about how this transitions, and I don't know. I don't think there is no one point about what makes it acceptable or not.
Yeah, and that's what I find curious is like, what is that element in a fandom, and is there something we're missing? This like kernel somewhere of like, this is when people go, okay, too far. And when I can see a band that has one fundamentally irrelevant member still running the band and touring, I have a hard time figuring out what exactly that is.
I think you touched on a good point. Relevancy. How relevant were you in the band? And I don't just mean like, for example, trying to think, if you have very little participation in the sense that you didn't write any of the songs, hey, I'm Rush, and no, that's Rush is a bad example. I can't think of a good example, but I don't know. What comes to mind? Help me out. I'll think of a band with some dead weight in it.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Turn on the radio.
Well, my point is, if you had a band, name one, it doesn't matter, and you know one of the members is dead weight, they're just there to play, when everybody else wrote the songs, recorded, whatever, they had something to do in the band, and then the dead weight comes along and says, I'm the new iteration of the band, that would piss you off because this person has no relevancy in the band. In Pantera specifically, everybody had a role to play. It does almost feel like it's 25% each way between the bands. Maybe that's part of it, that they all have an equal share to the prestige of that band.
Mm-hmm. That's possible. Like I said, it's just really hard to quantify.
Yeah, it is.
And if that is the case, then why is 150% considered okay? Like, I get the very firm impression that if this were the Abbott brothers doing Pantera with a different singer and a different bass player, there would be some kicking up dust and a little bitching, but people would have much less of a problem.
Mm.
I think, if they brought in, Corey Taylor or something like that and did a Pantera tour, people would be like, I don't know, Phil.
I can live with that, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, if it is those contributions, why are, do people lean into that? And again, like I said, you can have some band and, a guy who played keyboards on one song in 1978 start touring with the band under that name, and people are like, well, I'll go see that, It's a rough one. Like, like I said, look at Journey.
Yeah.
The critical member out of their identifiable thing was Steve Perry.
Mm-hmm.
And that wasn't going to happen. So they just hired a sound alike. And it's not all the original members. And, I think predominantly it's just the keyboard player and guitarist. Granted, the keyboard player, I think, wrote most of the songs, actually. But, people didn't have that hard of a problem with it.
I'm still playing with this idea of your share of the participation. For example, if you were envisioning what would a Pantera show look like? Well, I'd like to see Phil, I'd like to see Rex, and you're sort of picking up on the pieces. And I feel like that kind of applies. It applies here, that you're getting pieces of everything, but in some bands you're missing out on that. Like, for example, with Lindsey Buckingham, like that's very difficult to replace. And the same with Journey. But there are ways around it. But my point is that what would make you go and see the show? If you knew that Journey were playing and you wanted to see Journey, you go, well, I can't really live without, the original vocals. I can't deal with a replacement. The same with Judas Priest with Rip Owens. Like, it wouldn't be the concert I want to see.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the argument. How much does it complete the picture in my mind?
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Well, exactly. And that's, I think, what we're trying to get to the bottom of is like, what picture do people get and why? It's a thing. Like for myself, Journey actually, the reason they're at the top of my mind, they came through my area recently. And I almost went to see them solely for the reason that Neil Schon is an amazing guitar player. And I just want to see him play.
Mm.
I really don't care about their set list or, there's certain songs I want to hear because of solos. I just wanted to watch the guy shred guitar for, an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Some dude over there, it kind of sounds like Steve Perry. Perfect. Yeah, good. Like, didn't care. Did not care. I would have just sat on, Schoen's side of the stage and soaked in the speed picked goodness. But so I can find my own rationale and that type of thing. But I mean, for people who are really, fans of the music or something, it's like, yeah, I genuinely don't know. Like I said, for Kiss, it's okay. Pantera, no goddamn way. Megadeth, it's fine. Rex and Phil, sorry guys.
I wonder if there's, again, it sort of feels like idolization of the band member. What's the best way to say this? I already mentioned it with idolizing Dime. It feels like the other way to look at it is I don't think this is the case, but with Pantera, they feel like they are a musician's band. But then if I think of Megadeth, they too are, they have been and are technical the way they play.
Mm-hmm.
Not in a sense of like Dream Theater or something progressive and that kind of thing. I just mean they have some technicalities to them that makes them interesting and challenging to play and listen to. Pantera feels like they are a musician's band that musicians enjoy. And if you looked at, again, with Journey, for example, or Judas Priest, they're much more of a general consensus of people who like them that may or may not be musicians. It's just sort of like, I can listen to it and enjoy it and take it all in at face value. Does that sound somewhat coherent to you?
Sure. I mean, I could see that. And that's, like I said, I gave this some thought before we came on and everything. And I really have, like, that's why I said I'd be playing a lot of devil's advocate and things like that, because I've jumped on either side and I can knock down my own argument every time I get there. Once I think I'm at a conclusion, it's like, well, maybe it's about the music thing and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, but that didn't happen here. So that it's this, it is a witch's brew of just, you can't figure it out. It is really an anomaly that's so strange. You know, why, you know, so many bands can go by with, you know, barely a whiff of the original band that was supposed to be them. And some bands, if you don't bring 100% and it's not all original, you're going to catch hell. That's really strange.
I'm doing the same thing as you've just explained. I'm flip-flopping. I'm thinking of all of these things, but there are exceptions to all of these rules. I can't nail it down. I'm just thinking, it feels like a certain flavor, and it's very subjective. You have a flavor, but can you do with a very slight variation? For example, I saw Phil Anselmo and the Illegals a couple of years ago because I wanted to see Phil. I presumed he would have played some Pantera songs to entertain the crowd, but I went to see Phil because I like Phil. And I enjoyed that the same way I would enjoy seeing Rex doing his solo thing and maybe playing a Pantera song. It just feels like you're drawing a flavor and getting, it's hard to explain musically. How can you have musical flavors? But do you know what I mean? Again, taking like a personality. I like this. It's like an abstract flavor or a personality performing this song that is similar to the original package. It's so hard to nail down. It's not coherent, and I'm bending over backwards to make sense of it.
Yeah, it's a weird, twisted kind of thing. I think at the tail end here, that it'd be interesting. What do you think, for you personally, is on your list of things that have to be done on this tour and things that shouldn't be done on this tour?
Let's see. Have to be done. Have to be done. I feel like they would have to play the classics, and it has to be. They can't play oddball songs, if that makes sense. That's my pick. I would just want to hear all of the classics, greatest hits kind of thing, and not really diverging too far into the oddball choices from their catalog. I can't think of an example, but that kind of thing. I don't know. I feel like, as much as we bash nostalgia tours, I want it to be as nostalgic as possible in terms of how I've seen it. I want to see Pantera like they were in 1994 and 95. That's what I want. I don't want the popular nostalgic tour. I want the old stuff. It's okay for me, but not for you. I don't know. I can't I don't know. I can tell you what I want. I want the Pantera from 1994. The attitude, the style, the sound, that rawness.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of what I don't want, I guess it's just oddball choices from the set. I can't think of anything else. That's all I got from that. What do you think?
I'm 50-50 on the set list thing. I think they obviously have to play the classics. You know, they got to do that. I feel like some of the live fan favorites or some of the ones that, you know, weren't popular on radio but are deep cuts, I think should be brought in because, you know, that was the experience you got with Pantera too, is that's why you went to see them live. You know, you want to hear Drag the Waters or something like that. The one thing I'm hoping that they don't do, and I think will be just a bummer, is if they capitalize too much on constant references to Dime and Vinnie.
Yeah.
If they turn it into this like metal version of the old P. Diddy thing where he couldn't go 4 lines in a song without going, Biggie, you know, and having to like, this one for Biggie. This is for, shut up, dude. And it just got to be this ridiculous thing where I started to think every song he did was called This Is for Biggie. You know, he just always kissing the sky thing and stuff like that. Unfortunately, I get the feeling unless he gets reined in, that could happen a bit.
Yeah.
I saw Zakk Wylde with Black Label. And this dude did a song on piano dedicated to Dimebag and the screen is just pictures of Dimebag going down. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, this is the biggest downer. I like in the middle of this heavy rock show and just shredding it. All of a sudden it's now like, it's like, dude, it's been like 10 years already. You know, yeah, I know you lost your friend, everything, but I mean, you're going to sit here and the song went on forever. And then they had to do the drink to Dime and the whole band drinks out of their helmets or whatever the hell it is. And then he's got to do the blessing of the Lord preacher, whatever the hell thing he's made up, this church thing. And then that's got to be about St. Dime. And then I was just like, dude, you're going to be doing St. Rodney soon because I'm about to kill myself. Like, I can't take any more of this. Play a goddamn song. I did not come here. I felt like, and this I do not mean as a joke, like I had been transported back in time and I was at the wake after Darrell's like funeral. I was just like, oh my God, are you kidding me, dude? It's just this morbid thing on it. It's like, I want a celebration of the music, not, you know, somebody curled up in the rain on top of his grave, like weeping away or something. If it gets too into that type of stuff, I'm out. I can't do it. And again, huge loss to music, huge loss to his family and everything else. But man, you know, when decades start going by, you got to be able to start to maintain.
And of course, it doesn't mean the same thing to everyone else. You know, of course, you lost your friend, but there are some people like they don't even know who Zakk Wylde is, and they're like, "Why are you doing this?" Like, relax. Obviously, in a Black Label concert, that's completely different. But I mean, generally, if they start doing it on stage of Pantera, really, I feel like only Phil and maybe Rex should be talking, and let the other two sit at the back and not say a goddamn word. Because it's Pantera.
That's my fear is or, you know, okay, we've got a great show going. Let's take the mic and take it around every member of the band to talk about a remembrance of Vinnie or no, just play their fucking music.
Get in and get out. Don't hang about.
Yeah. And of course, something, I mean, you want to honor them in some way. You want to do, like, for me, what would be cool is maybe if they stop in the middle of the show and they have like Darrell just absolutely going batshit on guitar, just lead riffing on something like an outtake from a really big show, where as a lead into one of their songs, he did some kind of crazy intro or something that he's known for, and have the video of that. And when when it's about to go into the video or into the song on the video, the band starts playing that song. It's like, you know, he's with us.
That works.
We're doing, let Dime start this song for us. Great. Fantastic tribute. Short to the point. Everybody gets it. He's missed. He should have been here for this, but we're going to carry on. Great. Do that. If it starts turning into an open casket funeral, that's my fear. Is, you know, people get older and they start ruminating on stuff a little too much. And, you know, it's like your grandpa that won't let go of something. It's, oh God.
So, the other point is just to sort of swing course. Let's change gears a bit, in the sense that my fiance said to me, we're talking about this idea, and because of COVID, and again, because Pantera have never done this before, this is the only time maybe in their schedule that Rex and Phil can do this. It's like, if we're going to do it, we need to do it now. This is the only opportunity. We're getting on a bit, you know, we might go next month from a virus or whatever. It just feels like now's a good time. Let's tackle it while we're healthy. It just seems like a good opportunity to do so. Yeah, just on the plus side. So instead of it being a tribute or a remembrance, it's like, let's do this now. Let's do it while we want to. It's a good decision. We're up for it. Yeah,
exactly. And that's why I think I'd much rather, instead of a mournful thing, have the approach being like, I used to love the saying, don't cry because they're gone. Smile because they were ever here to begin with.
Yeah.
Like, then let's go for it, man. Let's, you know, there is no part about Pantera's music I ever thought was something that I was supposed to crawl around weeping on the floor over.
Definitely not.
You know, a lot of songs about strength and perseverance and kicking ass, and sometimes even being at the party or getting revenge or kicking ass. It was gunslinger music. You know?
Right.
And it was like, then come in guns loaded and give me what Darrell would have given me. Give me what Vinnie would have given me. Don't give me, you know, like you're his wife, still not over it. I think she's more over it than you are. Like, you know, so I'm blasting on someone who hasn't done anything yet. I'm just saying, like, that to me would really reek. And
that he would do that. I can totally see Zakk Wylde doing that. He's just he is wild. He's a wild card. He just does that.
Yeah. But like I said, it's after seeing that show and having to walk out into the lobby to just go talk to friends and stuff while he did this thing, because it went on so long. I felt like I was suddenly at a Yanni concert. It was just like, I would stick my head back in the door. It was actually at a Schecter party during NAMM. Good sized theater, you know, great setup and everything, but there was also a lobby where you could go have drinks and talk to people and everything. And I literally had to walk out and keep walking back in. And I'm like, he's still playing the goddamn piano. Like, seriously, has this turned into a new age thing or something? And the pictures of Dime never stopped. And I was just like, oh my God, please. It's like, this wasn't even a Pantera show.
No. So, I was going to just crash that and say, I'm not a fan of Zakk Wylde. Just his personality. Whoever replaced Robert Hill after he was in Black Label, he performed for a while with Black Label, and they had a new bassist. I was watching, I guess I can't remember his name. There was a tour video, and he was in the bus, and he got the gig, and he got a brand new bass to play in Black Label. And he goes, "Hey guys, look at my brand new bass." Zakk Wylde picked up the bass and threw it down a staircase or down the hallway and fucked it all up. And he said, "Yeah, well, fuck your bass. It's going to be dinged up playing in this band." It's like, what a prick. How do you do that shit? Like, just
I think that's staged. You know,
maybe.
as much as I'm bagging on, I can actually say I'm 100% sure that's staged. I'll even tell a little story.
Yeah.
You know, I used to be endorsed with Schecter and had a lot of good friends there. I would go and hang out at the factory a lot. So I've met Zach a number of times. And as much as I'm bagging on him and stuff, Zach is a really nice guy.
You sure?
Absolutely.
Okay.
He's actually one of the most gentlemanly and polite dudes I've met in LA. It was, yeah, it kind of blew me away. I was like, what the hell? Yeah, I would see him around the factory and he was always nice to people, had never had a bad word to say about anybody, was, you know, he would be the type of guy, I have no doubt, that if you were sitting there filming something, you'd be like, God, I'm thirsty. Dude would walk out and get you something to drink. As a joke, one time, Schecter was creating something called the Riot Face, and they were debating a certain color that I was like, you got to do this color. You have to. And they had one prototype of it on the wall. And I was sitting on my couch with my back turned to that part of the room. And Zach dug it. He went over and picked it up off the wall. He was like, oh, wow, look at this. And the artist rep there just made a joke. He was like, oh, Rodney, he's touching your bass. I turn around real quick. I'll be like, I'll kill him. Dude literally froze. He's like, oh, is this your bass? I'm so sorry, man. Oh, here, I'm going to put it back. He goes, no, I didn't realize, genuinely. He was like, I didn't mean to mess with your stuff, man. I apologize. I was like, hey, you're fucking Zach Wild. You can grab a bass off the wall. You know, and I had to like assure him. I'm like, no, it's cool. He was like, no, I feel really bad, man. I'm like, no, dude, it's fine. And, you know, leaving that day, it was the first time I'd run into him walking down the hall. I go, hey, man, it was really good meeting you. And he goes, you as well, man. Really enjoyed it. Could not have been a sweeter guy. Genuinely.
Then I'm seriously confused. I don't know what the fuck I was watching then. This was the tour video. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure, you know, like they don't know the camera's rolling, done for effect, you know, or just to be ridiculous. But,
well, I feel silly.
Oh, but it goes to show PR, media.
Yeah. That brings us straight back.
Fabrication. Yep. All a fabrication. That person you see is not real. But, yeah, so in a way, it kind of makes sense to me at the end, too. I mean, he seems like a genuinely tender-hearted guy who, you know, he kind of wears things on his sleeve. And when he, you know, does this tribute to Dime type of thing, he's not doing it out of some bullshit cash grab or something. Like, he's truly paying remembrance to a friend.
Yeah.
And, you know, even though that thing he did at his show and stuff, like, it wasn't for me, and, you know, I think it went on way too long and stuff, he was doing it because it mattered to him. And, you know, he still had pain over the loss of, you know, his brother in arms. So, you know, I got to say, from that angle, I think he's the right pick. I've already gone over what I think needs to happen or not happen. And, yeah, I think for the most part, really kind of wrapping most of this up, it's a PR stunt, and it was smart, and it was done well, because we're sitting here talking about it.
Just my final point. I was going to say this before I mentioned Zach Wild. Even though I have this tainted opinion of him, excuse me, even though I have a tainted opinion of him, I still think he is probably the best choice. I can't think of anyone else that would play on par to the same level as Dime. So I think he's definitely the right choice, and I don't have a problem with that. I think it's perfect. Let's just keep him. Let's turn his mic down a little bit.
Yeah.
Let Phil do the talking.
Let's just keep the piano off the stage.
Right.
That's all I'm asking. Just don't let him near the piano.
I guess the last question: would you go?
If the tickets weren't outrageous, yes.
Yeah, me too.
Because even just aside from Pantera, it'd be something unique. It's like, when am I gonna? Like, I used to really enjoy at the NAMM show seeing Metal Allegiance. You know, I'd see songs from, you know, tons of different metal bands and everything. played by these mixes and matches of, great members, and going to see the Pantera catalog played by the voice of it and the rhythm of it, but with Charlie Benanti, who I love as a drummer, excellent, and Zakk Wylde, who is, just an astounding guitar player. I could ask for worse karaoke.
Yeah.
So yeah, if it was reasonable and, wasn't some kind of ridiculous thing of like, I got to drive 2.5 hours to get to it or something, I'd check it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. Like I said at the start, usually I'd be highly critical, but I want to see this, and I've never felt this way over any other reunion. And I don't know if we've come to a decisive answer or whatever, but I don't know why this is different, but it's different.
Yeah. Again, and
it just is. It's just
even
different
for different people. So I think we pointed at a strange issue, but it's still a mystery.
It's still up for debate
until I decide on something, and then it becomes law. And that goes.
So you're the one, okay?
Yes. Yes. You should know this by now, Alfie. I accept no refutations. Anyway, but I'll be interested, especially on if you are on iTunes, please leave us a review, a comment, rating, stuff like that. That more than anything helps us in the rankings and lets us get out there and do more special episodes and things like that. And if you're on YouTube, chime in. I'd be real curious, especially why some people might have an answer or some insight into why this is allowed to happen. And then, do you hate this? And are you planning to go? Shred away. And eventually I'll lay down the law and make a decision, but you're welcome to chime in until then.
Take the opportunity before he changes his mind. Quickly, save us all.
In any case, I think that wraps it for this one. So, chime in. We're looking forward to the conversation. As always, you can find me on my other channel on Rodney McG, as well as the YouTube and all the interwebs podcasting stuff. And as for Mr. Alfie,
you can find me on YouTube if you type in Witch Bass and Pantera related. I too have kind of reviewed or done my take on Rex's new signature bass. So if you're interested in that, come along and have a look. Rex enjoyed it. He commented. He said he liked it. So he vouches for it. He liked it.
Nice. Can't get a better endorsement than that.
Definitely.
That's really cool. So this was all good and time appropriate. Definitely check out Alfie's video. And if not, your shame is eternal. You are cast out of Valhalla. So speaking of Valhalla, I'm going to the dinner version of it. So we're going to wrap it. We will see you on the next one.
See you later.